Welcome to the Full Nielsen. Today I want to talk about the issue of overpenetration, or the way I see it, the non-issue of overpenetration, or relatively small issue of overpenetration. This is something you'll see on forums all over on the internet, see all over the place of guys saying, well, I don't want to use that bullet, or I don't want to use that type of firearm because overpenetration. It's going to go through all of my walls, into my neighbor's house, through all their walls, into the next house, and it's going to kill somebody on accident. That certainly is a possibility, but it isn't very likely if you're following one of the firearms rules, which is to know your target and what's beyond it. And in other words, if you have a pretty good idea of the layout of your house and where your neighbor's house is located and stuff like that, so when you look down a hallway or you look into a room, what is beyond that wall, the issue of overpenetration is not going to be a problem. You're going to position yourself in a way that you're not sending rounds at an angle or in a direction that in the event that you do miss, you're accidentally going to hit somebody. But in my opinion, if you're in a life and death situation, that should be pretty low on the list of your concerns. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be aware of it at all. You should still be, something that should still be considered. But you certainly shouldn't be shooting birdshot or any of that type of stuff. The human body is probably more difficult, and it probably takes more firepower to penetrate it than it does to penetrate drywall. So if you're worried about penetrating drywall, and I don't want to use anything over birdshot because it'll go through drywall and it could go through walls and hit somebody on accident, you also are picking out a load that isn't suitable to incapacitate a threat. I know some people will say, well, shot placement's key. If you, shot somebody in the right place with birdshot, that it would incapacitate them, and that may well be true, but that doesn't mean that it's the best option in my opinion. I think that's a silly way of thinking and a silly way of going about picking a caliber that is suitable. Now, there are simple things you can do with calibers that can help with your, overpenetration, and that is picking out hollow points or soft points or ballistic tip bullets, things like that that are designed to fragment on impact, because when they hit drywall or they hit a person, they're going to expand and dump their energy in the target that they hit, as opposed to a full metal jacketed round that may just ice pick through however much material until eventually it comes to a stop. Now with a 5.56, a lot of these rounds, whether they're hollow point or whether they're soft point, whether they're soft point or whether they're full metal jacketed bullet, with a full metal jacketed bullet, a lot of these will tumble on impact anyway. So when they hit that first thing of drywall, it may start them tumbling, and then as they keyhole through the other things of drywall, they're still going to be stopped relatively quickly. In fact, in most of the tests that I've watched, from what I can recall, and this is really curious because a 223 or 5.56, you would think, because it's capable of penetrating soft body armor where a 9mm is not, you would automatically assume, well, that means it has more penetrating power. Well, on the initial impact, from the stuff I've looked at, that seems to be the case. That if you were shooting soft body armor, whatever, that speed is going to make it penetrate further than something like a 9mm. But when it comes to penetrating drywall and stuff like that, where it's going to be impacting numerous things and stuff like that, the extra weight that a 9mm has, it being 115 to 147 grains, or the extra weight that a lot of other projectiles may have, the 5.56 actually does relatively well when it comes to overpenetration. So some guys who believe that the AR-15 is going to penetrate tons of walls where some of these slower but heavier bullets may not, that's not necessarily the case. Again, from what I can recall, 9mm, not with hollow points, but with full metal jacketed bullets compared to like full metal jacketed AR-15 rounds, will penetrate more walls than what an AR-15 will. And I think that's just because it weighs more. That may vary from, different types of bullets you shoot, whether it's hollow point or soft point bullets and those respective things, but AR-15 is an excellent option indoors. So now with buckshot, something like this is something that could be somewhat concerning, simply because if you're shooting at a pretty substantial distance and you're not using like federal flight control or something, the pattern, if you have a big house and you're shooting, 20 yards may be pretty substantial at that point, and it may be that only half of these are connecting with your target and the other half are going beyond that. So if you have people beyond that or whatever, the likelihood of hitting somebody on accident, if you have 4 or 5 of these floating in the air, as opposed to an AR-15 where you are precisely aiming each shot as you pull the trigger and making sure each one connects, likelihood of an accident would probably be higher, in my opinion, with something like 00 Buckshot. But again, not something, in my opinion, that you should fret over. Just be aware of your target and what's beyond it. Be aware of your house's layout, what's beyond those walls and stuff like that, to where if you saw, somebody standing in a certain position, you could think just in a split second, okay, I know there's nothing beyond there I got to worry about, and do what you've got to do. So that concludes my rant on overpenetration. Thanks for watching this video. If you guys have any comments, feel free to leave those in the comment section below. Have a nice day. See ya.